Another awesome guest coming right up. Chris Fung spills how he went from a regular job to killing it in real estate, even after the 2008 crash kicked him down. We're talking cash flow trick, partnership wins and fall, and real wealth building moves. If you after work-life balance and you love real estate, you got to watch this. Hey, it's V Lee, and you are watching the Real Estate Baller Show. We a growing channel, building organically, and we need your help. Could you hit that subscribe button and share this episode with a friend? It means more to us than you know, and help us share more real estate investing tips and tricks with more people. Thanks, and enjoy the episode. I'm sorry for this interruption. I've been asked a lot about passive investment, and I understand that there is nothing passive about being a landlord unless you can find a great property management company. So if you own an Airbnb, a vacation rental, or a short-term rental, and you are looking to free up your time, contact our team at Buzz Vacation Rentals at 281-549-8432 or check out our website at www.buzzvacationrentals.com. Thank you, and back to the Real Estate Baller Show. This episode is brought to you by Jet Lending. For over 20 years, Jet Lending has been helping real estate investors succeed. They offer 100% financing so you can be in at $0 at closing. I can always count on Jet Lending to fund my deals. If you're looking to fund your next deal, contact our friend over at jetlending.com. This episode is brought to you by National Real Estate Insurance Group, a national independent insurance agency specifically for real estate investors. I personally use NREIG for my investment properties. They offer a low monthly payment option to help you to lower your cash out of pocket when buying an investment property. If you're looking for insurance coverage for your flips or your rental, reach out to them. You can click on the link in the show descriptions, or you can reach out to Jules at 816-946-8443. Hey, Chris.
Hey, V, how's it going?
Good. Welcome to the Real Estate Baller Show. So let's start with a big one. How long have you been your own boss?
Probably since about 2006, 2007, somewhere in there.
How'd you get so lucky?
Well, my boss was ready to fire me, and I scored a big wholesale deal, and I was making like 30 grand on the deal. And that's a little bit more than he was paying on my yearly salary. And he was such a jerk that when I closed and I got the check, I told him to stuff it, and I quit. That's how it happened.
You were pretty young at the time though, right? When you started?
Yeah, that was like in my 20s, probably, 26, 7, 8, 27, 28 years old, something like that. Yeah, pretty young.
So every time I hear people talk about what Chris is doing, all I hear is Chris doing this, or riding bike, going on trips, having fun.
That was the whole point. I didn't want to work. I wanted to get a lot of money so I could go and have fun. And that's the reason I got into real estate. I read all the books that everyone reads, and, Poor Dad and The Richest Man in Babylon and Think and Get Rich and all those books. I was like, yeah, that's 100% what I'm looking for. I think that's probably one of my strengths, is that I've built a real estate business that allows me to live a life that I love and I really enjoy. And I never got into the trap of like wholesaling for too long, or going a job for too long. I've always made sure to try to live a life that I enjoy.
So what does a typical day look like now? Do you work at all?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing too, is I love my business. I also built a business that I enjoy with a team that I absolutely love. A typical day could be waking up and going for a local mountain bike ride, doing 40, 50 miles on my bike, coming back, having lunch, going to the office for a few hours, handling some problems, talking to my employees, making sure everything's going well. That could be a typical day. A typical day could be hopping in the airplane, going to Austin, San Antonio, Santa Fe, doing some mountain biking. There really is no like typical day, but I do work a lot because even though I have the real estate business and the rental properties and the passive income, there's always something to do. There's always something that can be better. There's always something that can be fixed. And I enjoy that. And I really enjoy the team building with my staff. Like we have the best team that we've had in my life. They're amazing. They're like family to me. So they come over to my house on Friday. We play Robert Kiyosaki board games. We talk about money. We eat tacos. Like we have a great time. And I just love it. So there's no typical day, but on a typical week, yeah, I'm definitely in the office. If I'm not out of town, I'm going to go to the office and check in on things and try to get something done because I love to work also.
Well, it sounds really cool that you have been able to build, a business, a career, your lifestyle the way you are now. But we all know it didn't happen overnight, right? It's like you didn't get started with that $30,000 wholesale deal and now you just have a freedom of life. If you have to name one thing that's really make an impact on how you become the person you are today, what would that be?
I think the one thing would be the vision, because I look at my friends that I started with and, it was fun. Like we're in our 20s, we're making these big wholesale fees, you're closing deals, and back then 10 grand wholesale fee was something to be proud of. And you could buy a car for that kind of money. And I look at some of those guys, here we are almost 20 years later, and they're just doing the same thing. And, I had a bigger vision for that. And I always would seek out other people to like model myself after. I'm not very original. I'm not an original thinker, but I'm very good at modeling and I'm very good at imitating. And I'm very good at like seeking out winners and finding out who are the winners and trying to model after what they do and try to mimic, try to figure out what it is that they do to get there. And so for me, it was the vision of knowing that the wholesaling or the flipping was really, or even maybe just lending, things like that are very linear. There's no exponential growth. Everything is time for money. And I knew that where I wanted to be was to unlink my time from my money. I wanted there to be a disconnection there. And so I knew that to do that, I had to think a little bit bigger. I had to think towards rental properties, appreciation, cash flow, leveraging assets. And so I think really it was the same strength that I have today. I sit down, I get really quiet and I think, and I spend a lot of time alone thinking and trying to figure out the world, trying to figure out my life, trying to figure out where I want things to go, and always thinking long-term, always thinking sustainability. I'm always thinking, how does this party end? Whereas the other people, I think, that don't do that, they're mainly thinking, this party is fun. And I'm thinking, yes, but how does this party end? And what does the next party look like? And so I'm always looking like that. And so I think that was it for me, was being able to think in terms of long-term planning, where I wanted to go.
Have you always been entrepreneurial?
Yes, 100%. Ever since I was a kid, I would say. Yeah, very, very young.
Was it because of your environment? Like, were you exposed to it early on, or just, was your family, did they have business?
Both my mom and dad.
Okay.
Yeah, so 100%. I was, wearing diapers and crawling around on the floor at my dad's office, and he was telling me about real estate appraisals and, discounted cash flows and cap rates when I was a little guy. Yeah, and my mom owned her own appraisal business too at one time. And so, yeah, I come from a family of entrepreneurship. And so I'm blessed and thankful for that, because I definitely think I had a natural instinct to want to do that. But golly, it really helps when you have two loving parents that are, giving you the ideas and helping you.
So it's in your DNA.
Oh,
you
yeah.
just want to be a business.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So you started off with wholesaling, one deal, made $30,000.
Yeah.
What happened after that?
Oh, gosh. So I think right after that, I had like no deals for like 6 months, and I started regretting it. I thought maybe I should apologize to my boss and see if I can get the job back. And I'll tell you, it was kind of crazy. I was wholesaling and, trying to figure it out, trying to figure more deals. And I think I made like about 90 grand in my first year of wholesaling. So 30 grand and then another 60 in deals that first year. But it was like the cash roller coaster. it's up and it's down and it's crazy. But I was pretty good budgeting and everything was going well. And then 2008 happened. And, it used to be like any deal would work. It doesn't matter what the numbers were. Somebody was going to buy it. And all I had to do was put some little signs on the road that said, we buy houses. And then after about 6 or 7 phone calls, I was going to have a deal, like guaranteed. It was so easy. It didn't cost anything. And then all of a sudden I heard about this 2008 thing and I didn't know what it was, but I knew that my buyers were like not answering the phone anymore. And so I was thinking, I had a little bit of money, but it was starting to run out. And I told my roommate at the time, we're about to run out of money and I'm gonna have to get rid of this house and I'm not gonna be able to live here and you're gonna have to go somewhere else too. And then I went to go visit my brother in California for a few days. And I had forgotten that I had given this realtor a bunch of my deals because I was looking to sell them. I couldn't sell them. And this guy had listed them on the MLS. I didn't realize, maybe we had a miscommunication, but I was like, I don't own these houses. I'm trying to sell the contracts. But so anyway, I'm in California. My roommate calls and he's like, hey, the fax machine's out of paper. There's like paper coming out of this thing like crazy. I don't know what's going on.
This is 2008 we're talking about?
Yeah. I'm like, well, what do the papers say? And he said, well, it says Trek. All these papers say Trek 1 to 4.
And you got a bunch of contracts.
We got a bunch of contracts. And so what had happened was he had listed these wholesale deals on the MLS accidentally. And the hedge funds and the institutional buyers and the big money guys were buying directly from the MLS. And so I had probably 8 deals under contract that I could not sell to my local guys anymore because, they were just like a little scared of the market. But the real money had been waiting and they were ready to buy and they had already been buying. I just didn't know that where they were buying from because, they were like from other states. And so they don't know about Chris Funk with a little email list or something. They don't know about this guy, but they know about the MLS. And so instantly it changed. I started talking to them. They started telling me what they were looking for. I started finding more deals and it was like overnight I was back in business and it was crazy. So I kept doing that and I kept finding really good deals. And then my hard money lender, I was doing some flips too. My hard money lender came by and he saw I had been to these classes to learn how to run apartments. And he was asking me, why was I trying to be an apartment manager for a job? And I said, no. I'm looking to learn this information because I want to own them one day. And he said, well, that's amazing because the bank that I do business with has like 20 or 30 foreclosed apartments. We should go talk to them. And I said, okay. And so that's what we did. We got this little like PDF paper and it had like 30 addresses. And they said, anything you want, make an offer. And we just started looking at them and making these crazy offers. And sometimes we were making cash offers and they said, no, this is wrong. You have the whole idea wrong. We don't want cash. We want to finance these deals to you at a higher price with a very low interest so that on the books, we are not showing big losses. And I said, oh, well, that's fine with me because I didn't have the cash anyway. I was going to need to find a loan anyhow. So that actually solves 2 problems for me. We can just get you to finance the deal. And okay, so perfect. So that's what we did. Then I started to structure these offers where they would finance it for 100%. And my hard money lender, who was rich, would sign the personal guarantee because I was worthless. I had nothing, but he had money. But he didn't know what he was doing. So he had money and didn't know what he was doing. I knew what I was doing and had no money. The bank had all these assets.
You guys made a perfect couple.
Right. And the bank needed both of us and we needed them. Yeah. So it was a great situation. And so that's how I got into my first deal. And then like a few months later, my dad called me and me and my dad had bought some rental properties too, because being an appraiser, every time I would wholesale, he's like, man, you got to stop selling these so cheap, Chris. These are really good deals. So me and my dad bought a few deals and we started a little portfolio of rentals. And then I had a few rentals of my own with my hard money lender financing them to me. And then we bought the apartments and then me and my dad bought an apartments together, a smaller one. And then once I got everything.
What size were these? The apartments that you bought, what size were they? Like?
The first one was 70 units, 70. And we bought it for like 1.8 million. And then we added some rehab money. So I think the all-in cost was like 2.3 or something for that.
So with these, do you have on-site management or are they too small?
Yeah, we do. I have just one person in the office, and then I have 2 maintenance people, but they're taking care of everything that I have. So they're running the smaller property, which is 18 units, and then they're also running all the rental houses. So it's a pretty tight staff. Like, we don't have a lot of people, and that's also part of the reason why I always come in there and help out with things. But yeah, it might be a little small. If you just had one of those by itself, it might be a little small for staff. But if you combine it with the other properties, then there's enough of a income for the budgets to work and to have a staff and a payroll. So it works out pretty well.
So started with a few houses here and there, and then it sounds like you just hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
Like you started with the 30,000 jackpot, and then I don't know what you got out of your 8 houses that you sold. That's another jackpot. You just keep hitting bigger and bigger jackpot.
Yeah, that was my mantra back in the day. I always told people there is gold out there, but to find it, you have to be out there digging like 18 hours a day for years and years. And you're never going to see me posting the pictures of myself digging 18 hours a day. You're going to see me posting pictures of the gold I find. But the secret is I find gold every day because I'm digging 18 hours a day looking for it. And so I used to tell people, you're going to get really lucky if you want to work that hard. You're going to be surprised how much good luck you're going to find if you're out there working like that and looking for the gold. It's out there, but you're not going to find these amazing home run deals. Like one deal I bought, the 30,000 wholesale, I wholesaled that, quit my job. The hard money lender called me, foreclosed on it, needed to sell it again. I wound up buying it back from them for less than what I had bought it for the first time. And the second time I kept it as a rental. I didn't wholesale it. Then I wound up taking the garage apartment and I used a credit card to turn the garage into another unit. And I leased the unit, paid off the credit card, and I still own it today. So it was a 5-plex deal that we made into a 6-plex. Unit 6 was free. It's like, you don't get those deals by just sitting on the couch. You get them by being the guy on the phone all day long, talking to everybody and being ready to act, you know?
Well, I'm glad you clarify that because it sounded like you just sit and go to California and then I got a bunch of contract coming in.
No, I was almost out of business. I was about to go get a job at Walmart. I had no money. That was pure luck. But it was because I met the realtor. It was because I went to the meeting. It was because I was beating up the phone all day trying to solve my problem. And then I just got lucky, you know, but I wouldn't have got lucky if I was just sitting there and waiting, probably.
So looking back today, with all the things you've done, would you have done anything differently?
Yeah. I definitely would have bought more properties quicker. I would have not been so resistant to selling, taking the cash off the table, reinvesting. I would probably be in a much better position today. I don't have any regrets, but with the knowledge I have now, oh yeah, I was a very poor-minded person when I got started, like the lack mentality and always afraid of what if I don't find another deal? I better keep this deal. Whereas now it's not always about finding the cheapest deal. It's about taking that money, taking that profit and moving it into something else and keeping that money moving. And I used to always want to get it as cheap as I could get it and then hold it forever. And sometimes the best thing to do is just sell it, get something else, make another gain, keep that money moving. When that property goes up in value, it's time to sell it. It's time to buy something else. You don't have to make every deal a home run. You just have to stay at the plate and keep hitting the ball over and over and over. And so that I think is a big lesson that I learned is just don't hold something forever and ever. Keep the money moving. Keep it moving.
But how do you decide at what point that you need to exit, get rid of the property?
Well, I guess that's different for everybody. It depends on your goals, but you know, if you put in $1 million and you buy a property, multifamily or something, and it goes up by, $1 million or $2 million or $2 million, maybe it's time to take that money out and go do it again. You don't have to ride that pony until it quits. You don't have to own that property until the roof falls off. You don't have to own it for 15 years. You can just sell it and move on. And the difference is, if I had done it that way, I might have 7 or 8 apartment complexes right now versus one small one and one medium-sized one. So I think that's a big lesson I could have learned.
That's interesting. Back to your point earlier, you said unlink time and money.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. Are you saying you want to sleep and still make money, or ride bike and still make money?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's like two games, right? There's the real estate game, and then there's the money game. And the money game is a lot more fun. Your money can make money. You know, you can play games with the money and earn income without doing work. You can take, like recently, I do a little private lending with people like Eddie. I love lending to Eddie. And I just watch other guys and I see what they do. They start paying off the rental houses, and then they get a line of credit or they refinance, and then they just take that cash and they lend it to somebody else and they make money on top of it. And then the next thing you know, the income from that is so large, and you're piling up enough money that you could use that to buy more property, and it becomes this snowball. And so what I love is making money with your brain by thinking and watching other people, instead of, I have to go do another deal. Let me go talk to a seller. Let me go try to negotiate. Sometimes you just have to think, well, what could I do with the money I already have? What could I do with the equity that I already have? Could I use the equity, maybe restructure some of my debt? If I have 10 houses and they all have loans, could I refinance 2 of those houses and put loans on them for 80% and then have the other houses be free and clear? If I could do that, now I can use those other 8 houses as leverage. I could go to the bank and say, hey, I'm going to buy an apartment building. Why don't you put liens on these 8 houses, and we're going to use that for the down payment? Or let me lend this money to somebody else to make money, and I'm going to use the interest they give me for the down payment on my next deal. And so what I've learned is that there's ways to make money other than just doing deals. Let me buy this house. Let me flip this house. Once you kind of keep moving up, there's other ways to make money. And so that's, I think, what is most interesting is that it's not always about working for more money. It's about thinking, how can my money work better for me? And then all the different buckets, you've got the savings, the checking, and then, okay, which one can make the most interest? How can I have the money move immediately from when the rent comes in, immediately transfers to a higher account with more interest? And when that gets too big, then I move that over to private lending, and then it makes more money. And I just love that idea. I love thinking about it.
That sounds amazing. I love how you put it. So let's play this little game, right? So let's say you got 10 rental property. If you were to exit, sell them off, what number would make sense? Let's say 10 rental, 2 million.
Okay.
That's about what it is, what they are in Houston. Like it would
Sure.
if you were to liquidate and get, 2 mil out of 10 rental. Is that reasonable?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Okay. Say if you have 10 rental and you just get out of it, and then you take your 2 millions and you now loan it out. Or you could go and leverage against those 10 rental, right? And then get some money out and loan it out.
Yep.
What other ways can we go? Or, what do you think of that, the idea? Would you rather sell them, or would you leverage them and then get the money and then have that money make money?
Well, I leveraged them. The answer for me was to use the leverage, because if you sell them, well, then it's like, here's what I went through. If I sell them, I have to think, when is the top of the market? Is this the right time or not the right time? I don't know. Mm-hmm. If I sell them, then I have to pay the taxes, and they're going to do depreciation recapture, and maybe that's going to be a lot if I owned them a long time. And so for me, I thought, well, why don't I just leverage them, take that money, and maybe you get about the same when you look at, an 80% loan, and you look at selling them with closing costs and then paying taxes. Maybe you actually get a little more when you do the leverage, and then there's no tax problem. Yeah. But then you also have interest that you have to pay. So that hurts you a little bit. If you do the cash, now you have the free and clear cash. And then there's some other considerations depending on what you're going to invest in. If you have the leverage money on a line of credit, that's a little volatile. Maybe the bank's going to pull back the line of credit. You better be a little careful what you're going to do with that money. If you have cash, you can play in any sandbox. It doesn't matter if it has a 5-year timeline, let's party. If it has a 6-month timeline, let's do it. You can play different games when the money is free and clear versus when the money is leveraged by the bank And then you have to consider, is the interest rate fixed or is it floating? And then what are you going to do on the backside? Are you going to get 12% fixed? Okay. Well, what if your 8% bank line suddenly becomes 13 because the Jerome Powell decides we have an inflation problem? Now you're a little upside down. So there's some things to consider, but I still prefer the leverage route because the best part is I'm still getting appreciation on those rentals while they're leveraged. I'm still getting rental income on those rentals all the time. You're not getting that once you sell them. So I like the leverage game. It's a little more complicated, but I like it because there's a whole lot more going on in my favor when I still own those assets and I'm playing the leverage game. I just have to be a little careful when I use the money. What am I going to do with it? Where is it going to go? And have a backup plan. You know, what am I going to do if things change? Would I be able to take this line of credit, convert it to like a term loan, convert it to a mortgage? Are those rates going to be acceptable? Is that payment going to work for me? How volatile is the investment that I'm in on the other side? But I still like the leverage game. I think it is a little bit more risk, but I think it produces a better result financially in the long run to have that flexibility of the leverage and the tax benefits.
Totally agree. Because I mean, when you leverage, you don't have to pay tax on that money that you get out.
Right.
And if you sell them off, you have to pay some taxes there.
Right.
Right. How does someone get knowledgeable like you? Because this is like next level investing.
Yeah. Well, I think really for me, it was just kind of getting in the local groups and talking to guys that are way ahead of you. You know, like the guys that I went skiing with. Some of these guys are doing real estate like way bigger than me. And by just having a good attitude, going to the meetings, being willing to meet people, being friendly, and telling your story. That's another thing. If you tell your story, kind of like you're allowing me to do here, which I'm really thankful for, it's a great network opportunity. And someone might call me after this and say, Chris, you know, that's so cute. You have little apartments. I have 400 apartments. We should talk, you know? And then you find out, whoa, this guy has like, you know, he's a billionaire. He wants to talk to me about Houston because he doesn't have anything here. You just never know. And so it's those ideas. Every idea that I've gotten from here, I've gotten from talking to people in these little bars and groups and restaurants where they have meetups, and by just showing up and talking to them. And I say, well, hey, look, I got these rentals. What do you do with your rentals? Oh, okay. I didn't know that. If you can get their phone number or their social media, even better. You know, you be respectful of their time, but you call them sometimes. Hey, I heard you talking about this thing one time. How's that work? You know, what do you tell the bank when you're asking for this thing? What's that called? How do you ask them for that? How do you present yourself to the bank? You know, that was one thing that was huge when I talked to Eddie. And how do you present yourself to the bank? And he was like, well, you need a little booklet. It has all of your success stories. It has your tax return. It has all of your, you know, your credit history, before and after photos, because the bankers love that. They don't know who you are. And you need to be able to present yourself and show them, hey, this is who I am. This is what I know. This is my professional bio. And now they're a little bit more interested to talk to you because they see, okay, also it's got your financial statement. And so, oh, this guy's got money, or you know, he's got experience, or whatever your strength, you have to be able to show that off. And so I just learned that from other guys in the business. You know, Blake was another guy, that hard money lender. He taught me so much about how to work with the banks, how to get lines of credit. And it's not really formal education. It's more just like, I see other people doing stuff. I don't know how it works. I ask them how it works. They tell me, I don't quite understand it. I keep asking questions. When they run me off, I go find someone else that'll talk to me and ask them more questions. You know, eventually they become my friend if I don't run them off too much, you know.
See, you are the proof, right? You didn't have to know starting off.
Yeah.
You just keep learning and keep growing.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
I'm thankful for Eddie, and as well, like I remember the first time I went to talk to a banker, they wouldn't do business with me, right?
Yeah.
But then after that time, I learned and I got better and I got better. And I'm very fortunate that I was able to work with the bank because, I mean, you know, there are many people in our industry that's been around for a long time, but they still haven't been able to go to a bank and get money.
Right. And it's different too. Like, you don't talk to the banker the same way you talk to other people. Like, I explain it like dating. when you go on the first date, you don't tell them everything you're trying to talk about on the first date. You talk about nice things. And it's
Right.
it's kind of the same way with the bank. You don't say, hey man, I'm looking for 100% loan. I don't want to put no money down. You tell them, I'm a conservative business person. I like slow deals, slow growth. I'm working my way up. And one day I'm going to grow the business a little more, but you don't tell them, yeah, I'm going to blow it out this year. I'm going to buy everything I can find. And I want you to take all the risk. Like, that's going to scare the bank. Then I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. Banker don't like to take risk. Bank don't like to take risk either.
No. And I learned that too. You have to learn how you talk to people. You have to, and really, you have to be that way too. You have to walk the walk. You have to be willing to grow slowly and conservatively over time, taking calculated risks that are well calculated, that are going to pay off. And yeah, it's interesting. You learn over time how to present yourself in a way that the other party is going to see it. They're going to like it. They're going to want to do business with you. But yeah, a lot of people never get there.
Well, so you've been in for almost 20 years now.
Yeah, coming up.
Tell us some of the critical moments in your real estate journey here over the last 18 years.
Yeah, well, the 2008 crash was a critical moment. Mm-hmm. My business partner was very pivotal for me. He was my private lender. Then we became co-owners in the apartment building. Mm-hmm. But before all that, he was owner financing a lot of homes in Houston. And when the crash came through 2008, he had so many foreclosures, and he's an older gentleman. So he just asked me if I would be willing to help. And I said, yeah. And I would go out to these properties and try to find out, try to get access, try to see if anybody was there, and then turn them back into another owner finance again for him, get them rehabbed, get them up for sale, or, if we couldn't sell them, we'd put them up for rent. And so I think that was really valuable, mainly because I kind of got to see what can happen when you're not paying attention and the market can change very quickly. And I saw him lose on some of those. And I saw the negative cash flow and the pain that those deals caused. That shaped my future. That made me very cautious because I didn't want that to happen to me. I think that was a big pivotal time. Another big pivotal thing is partnerships. And back in 2020, I learned how to unwind a partnership, and I learned why partnerships can fail. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the partnership, and it might have something to do with a spouse that doesn't like the partnership anymore, that wants the family to go in a different direction. And I learned how to navigate that. I think.
You mean the spouses like yours or the other?
Well, the other party has a spouse that maybe wants to exit the partnership, and you don't want to exit. You want to continue ownership, but you're not really in a position to buy them out. And that's very challenging. So I learned how to deal with that. That was a big, big challenge. A lot of stress, a lot of money, a lot of lawyers. And I think learning how to deal with people and learning how to make those partnerships work and how to structure them in the future, what to do, was a big one. I've been involved in lawsuits before where I buy a property, I think it's the simplest deal in the world, and then I find out, oh my God, there's like the most worst problem with this thing that I never knew about. I've got one right now this morning, and I think after 2016 is when I got sued. I think we're going to settle it next week,
Well, we had to reschedule this recording twice because you had to go to court. Quit getting in trouble, Chris.
I know. I keep learning these lessons. But, the deal's going to be great. I paid $15 for it, and I'm going to probably walk away with $200. But, that's a long time to be in a deal to make that money. It's like, was that worth it? Maybe, maybe it was worth it. But I've learned about the court system. That's pivotal too. It's not always what the law is. You have to realize the judges are going to do things. The juries are going to do things. And I finally learned that what the wise people always said is true after I go out and get the information for myself. Don't do bad deals. You're going to go to court. You're going to lose. Even if you win, you're going to lose. And I've learned that to be true. But it's like, I always have to learn the hard way. So I try to watch when my friends get involved in deals and I try to learn from them. But I think the pivotal thing is, if you just focus on what works. Don't try to swing for the fences on every deal. Don't try to get involved in the highest risk deal. Just keep doing over and over the same little things that work, that are simple, that are easy, and trust your gut instincts. When something stinks and it doesn't feel good, but there's a huge payoff and you're really worried about it, keep doing research until you can figure it out. If there is a chance of litigation, weigh the risk. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I would have probably done that deal again. 15 grand into 20 grand in 9 years. I mean, that's pretty good. And I haven't had to do anything. I just put down 15 when I bought it, and my lawyer, been handling it since. And so, I mean, I would probably do that deal again, but it wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't what I was hoping for. Gosh, that's a tough one. What are the pivotal moments? I think learning how to work with people, and every single one of those instances was where I learned how to work with people. And every single time I've been audited by the IRS, and it was the same thing. The guy said, the law has nothing to do with this, Chris. This has nothing to do with the IRS code. Who is your agent? I know her. I know how she works. We're going to beat her, but we're not going to beat her with the law. We're going to beat her because I know how she works and I know how to beat her. We're going to watch this. And it was just like he said. It is
that
about.
That sounds like a line in a Harvey Specter line.
Yeah, that's what I play the man, not the game, or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. Play the man, know the man, not the law, right?
I got a tax lawyer that used to work with the tax agent that was auditing me. And he says, I know her weakness. She's going to mess up the paperwork on when they ask the bank to send over the documents, whatever that is. She won't do that. She's supposed to, but she's not going to do it. And then that's going to kick it out to tax court. And that's where we're going to win, because they don't have time to deal with us. So get your ducks in a row, get all your documents together. And if everything is right, we're going to win. And he went through my documents like 5 or 6 times, and he kept finding mistakes, and I kept having to go back and fix them and find the source documents and update my spreadsheet. And then one day he looked through it and he said, I don't find any problems. Let's go to court. And we were there for 5 minutes and we won big. And it was just like he said. So I think maybe another pivotal moment was like finding the right people to work with who know what they're doing, finding valuable people to work with in your business, finding good tax attorneys, good CPAs. I have an amazing CPA right now. My tax bill I'm in a wonderful situation with him. I've had guys before where it almost broke me. The amount of tax I was paying was just tearing me up. Yeah. That's a huge pivotal thing. And it's like from the Rich Dad book, find good advisors. And I'm like, well, I need money right now. I don't need advisors. But once you have money.
I miss my old CPA. I had a CPA when I started out, and he was great. Like, he knows where to go. Yeah. How to get into that other area where we still look good to the bank, right, and we pay less taxes. Exactly. And now, I mean, he's a character. Yeah. So, long term, I couldn't work with him anymore, just these other issues. But I try to find another CPA like that, right? Somebody who knows our business and who's not afraid to figure things out. Right.
It matters a lot, I mean, I went from paying $100,000 in taxes to paying almost nothing in taxes, and I changed nothing. It's like, wow, the difference was crazy. Just by one guy knows how the game works, the other guy doesn't know how the game works. And by changing over, it changed my life. It totally changed my life. Finding good attorneys to represent you in partnerships changes your life.
All right, y'all hear it. If you get in trouble, call Chris. He has a good attorney.
But don't get in trouble.
But don't get in trouble.
That's right.
Okay. So would you ever partner again?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Even all the trouble you went through?
Yeah. Yeah. If you asked me in 2021, I would have said no. But yeah, there's value in partnerships. They have to be structured correctly. They have to be short. It's like you don't want to have a partnership that doesn't have an end date in mind, because it's like when we get together for this thing, everyone's excited. We all want to do this thing. And then, in 9 years, maybe we're not excited anymore. Maybe you had something happen in your life and now you want to get out. You need the money. That's a long time. So partnerships should be short. They should have a very specific purpose, and they should conclude themselves with an option for everyone to get out. And you should have those options ready to go. They should be lined up. They should be readily available. And I should be able to either buy you out or sell out with no reservations whatsoever. There's huge value in partnerships. I'm going to try not to do partnerships. I'm gearing up right now to start acquiring property again. So I'm going to see how far I can go with my own little piggy bank. And when that runs out, I'll probably start looking at partnerships again. But I'm going to keep in mind what a partnership is for. I've learned over the years, they need to be shorter. You need to give people the option. Make your money and then go do another deal. And you need to have your interest aligned, and it needs to be spelled out. The partnership that didn't work, we did none of that in the beginning. We just saw the deal. We said, yes, boom, we're in the deal. We had no plan.
It's funny, right? Because if you actually take the time to sit down and list out everything, line out every item, then you don't have a partnership. Like it end there.
Yeah.
And I suppose that could be a good thing, right? Versus down the line, lawsuit, bigger money involved.
Yeah, exactly. I would do the deal again. Because it really was the deal that kind of brought me to the table. That deal is the one that made me a real owner with staff and employees and bookkeeping and solid financials. That deal changed my life in so many ways. But part of it too at the time is we both didn't really know what it was going to be. We didn't have a lot to lose, and we just thought, this looks good, let's try it. And at the end of the day, I think we're both still happy we did it. We're still friends. We still talk. It just is what it is. But going forward, I'm going to do it a little bit better, because who wants to go through all that grief where somebody's spouse is arguing and trying to, use leverage to get you to force the sale, and nobody wants to have to deal with that. So in the future, when I do it, it's going to be, hey guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to do this deal. We're going to try to make this money, and then it's going to work out like this. And then this is what we're going to do to get out. And if everyone's happy at the end of that and we get out, we make money, maybe we want to do it again. Cool. Maybe we'll do it again. Okay.
So the discipline to stay in your lane, like you evolve, but you didn't stray. Like you didn't go and say, well, I'm going to go buy storage. I'm going to go buy this office building.
Right.
How do you manage? Because we all get this shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you manage?
Yeah.
that?
I've definitely had the syndrome, the shiny object syndrome, but it's like deep in my core. I'm not going to invest in something I don't understand. Maybe I'm just have too much anxiety over that, because I'll get very excited, but when it's time to pull the trigger, I get a little shy because I don't understand it. But yeah, it happens a lot. My friends are killing it with these stocks, and, they buy Bitcoin and then they get rich, and then they buy Tesla and, goes up 4 times the money. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But for me, I like the real estate because I know it. I know how the deal is going to turn out for the most part. And I went deep on knowledge when it came to, like around COVID, I started to study the economy. I started to study macroeconomics. I started to study the macroeconomic system, the fiscal, the monetary systems, the Fed, how all that stuff works. And so I really understand how that stuff relates to real estate. So it's like becoming, a really good, hunter with a rifle. And then somebody asks you to go, shoot with a bow and arrow. You're like, why would I want to do that? I'm really good with the rifle. And that's kind of how I see it. Like, I'm really good with the rifle. I want to stay using it. I'm good with it. I understand how it works. I know it. I like it. I'm effective. And so I think really the insurance is get really good at one thing, and then you're not going to want to try something else. Like, I'm really good at mountain biking, and my friends will tell me, why don't you come play golf? No, I like I'm really good at mountain biking. Like, I'm really good. Okay. I don't want to play golf because my insurance policy is I'm already really good at something, and being really good at it, you like it, because the better you are, the more fun you're going to have, the more you're going to like it. So for me, I think by getting really, really narrow, I've gotten really good, and then it becomes a lot more enjoyable. And so now I'm not tempted to go try to buy some Bitcoin or something crazy, because like I'm over here in my lane, just with my foot to the floor, the pedal to the metal, and just going as fast as I can. And I'm smiling the whole time. And so it's like, I don't want to go try something else. And maybe that's a problem too. I don't know. But for me, it seems to work really good.
Well, that sounds like a lot of discipline to me. When you were learning about the economies and all of that, what would you, was it books? Was it articles? I'm asking this because I'm also having my own reason to ask.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Lots and lots of articles, lots of podcasts. I would say more podcasts than anything. And the best way, in my opinion, is you listen to somebody who can explain it on a third grade level. And then you listen to two people argue about it. And if you can have a bunch of different people explaining it almost like on a whiteboard, how does the Fed work? How does the fiscal system work? Monetary system. And if they can explain it like on a whiteboard, that's pretty good. I can understand that because I'm pretty basic. I can understand complicated stuff, but I need you to make it very simple in the beginning for me to digest. And so I started watching a lot of those videos on basic understanding, basic building blocks of the economy. Probably seeing like Ray Dalio has a good one. George Gammon has a really good one. Yeah, he's great. George Gammon's another one. He can break things down on the whiteboard, and he's super funny and makes it super basic. Peter Schiff was another good one. And probably if you watch where he's like a billionaire and he goes into New York and he puts on the sign that says, when they're down there protesting like years ago, whatever, like ban Wall Street or something, he puts up a sign that says, I am the 1%, let's talk. And people come, these crazy people in the street, and they're screaming at him for like 4 hours, asking questions. Why is this? And why is this? And he breaks it down. Every single question, he answers every single question in a way that an average person would understand, who's like the protesters. And one by one, the guy says, oh, okay, that's cool. No, you're right. And then the next guy comes, he goes, oh, no, I agree with you. Okay, all right, cool, that's good. And it's like he's just knocking down dominoes one by one by one. And I'm watching and I'm listening and I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. Now I'm starting to understand economics. I'm starting to understand how everything is fitting together. And so for me, is not like reading those like articles that you can't even understand half the words. That's not going to teach me. I can't do that. But I can watch somebody showing me in very basic terms and answering very, very basic questions, and then I can build on that. And so for me, it was stuff like that, just learning about it. And then of course, talking to other people, but it's hard to find people that can talk about it. Most people just, they just want to argue, oh no, I don't know, you're wrong. And then they read an article and, so it's hard to find people in real life that like to talk about macroeconomics. But
totally agree. Because everyone I would say majority of people have very little knowledge of the overall.
Right. And
they understand maybe just a little piece of it. And they're sticking to the ground and argue about that piece, but not really being open-minded about the big picture. But it's funny because the last time I was reading about interest money and stuff like that, I wanted to go open a bank.
Yeah, right. It's a pretty good business.
We need to get into a banking business. We need to start a bank.
Yeah. If you can deal with the regulators.
Well, you look around, Chase is getting bigger and bigger. Yeah. And, the banking business is fascinating to me.
It is. It's really cool. The way that money comes into existence, people think that the federal government prints money. No, banks print money. Banks literally create money out of thin air, and even foreign banks create US dollars. People don't realize that. In Europe, there's banks creating loans that are denominated in US dollars, and they are creating US dollars that go out into the market out of thin air without the United States government doing anything. It's crazy.
So I think what we both trying to say is real estate is the vehicle to get us to, whatever our dream is to be, the lifestyle that we want to have. Literally. But you got to go beyond to get more. So
yeah, I think so. Right? And it just depends on your dream, because you can start with 10 rental houses and get enough income to retire. And for some people, that might be all they ever wanted. For other people, they might want to have $750 million worth of apartment buildings spread out all over the country and have a staff of 300 people. And I know people like that too.
Well, this definitely is a mind-intriguing conversation. So as we are wrapping up, what advice do you, Chris, have for your 18-year-old Chris?
Man, stop partying so much. Get to
Really?
work.
I didn't take you for a party person.
Oh, you didn't know me when I was 18, V. Times have changed. I'm like a straight edge nowadays. But yeah, I would have told my 18-year-old self to really knock off the party and the silliness and get to work. You know, that's what I would have said, because I was a goofball when I was 18. I did way too much of the silly stuff.
Well, but here you are, right? Not too late.
That's right. That's all right. It's not too late. It can turn out.
Okay, I lied. I have one more question. Earlier you said you're getting ready to buy more. What are you buying more of?
I'd like to buy 4 or 5 more apartment buildings in the next probably 5 years. From what I'm seeing, the market's shifting pretty quickly now to becoming a buyer's market, even more so for the multifamily space. And so I'm positioning myself to be in cash right now and be ready to take down more properties, and then to streamline my operations to where I'm able to manage much more real estate, but still having the same time commitment. You know, I don't want to work 100 hours a week micromanaging all these assets. So, you know, I'll have to build a little bit of a structure. I'll have to bring some more employees. I'll have to maybe even have managers on top of managers overseeing things. You know, I'll have to hire some new positions and things like that. But yeah, I'm definitely getting ready to buy more deals. And I've looked at some guys and talked to some guys that are way further along than me in the multifamily space. And they're all telling me the same thing. This is the time. They're coming out of retirement. Some of these guys are coming out of retirement and they're saying, oh no, this is about to be the biggest party for the multifamily guys that we've had in the last 20 years. And so I'm trying to, again, follow these guys and kind of watch what they do and kind of mirror them, learn from them, follow them. And yeah, so my goal is to go pretty aggressively buy multifamily property over the next 5 years. The price decline in Houston so far is about 30% on multifamily since the height.
Are you buying all in Houston or elsewhere too?
Only Houston.
Only Houston. Okay.
Yeah, I want to keep it in the place where I understand, where I know things. Yeah, we've already had a pretty good drop, and it's looking like we are probably going to get more of a drop as the banks start to really turn over their inventory and they start to enforce the loans and they start to enforce foreclosure on the non-paying assets, because everyone was kind of waiting for things to rebound. And I think the banks are realizing now we're not going to have that rebound. Rates are going to stay up. And they're going to start to say, okay, then let's get rid of these. Let's start to initiate the foreclosure. And once that really starts to happen in mass, it's going to be kind of a race to the bottom. All the banks are going to be competing to get rid of their bad assets, which is not a big part of their portfolio. But even if it's 2%, if each bank has a couple foreclosures, they're all going to be trying to get them out there and get them sold. And I think it's going to create some big opportunity.
So just high level, big pictures, this is happening because interest rate went up, which forced the cost of operating these multifamily units to go up. The rent didn't catch up enough, so these operators now can no longer afford to keep. Am I right?
100%. Yeah, that's the high level
price have to go down.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
that's where you come in and scoop them up.
Yeah, hopefully. And I think too, one other point that I would make would be that not only is the high rates affecting the multifamily industry, it's affecting corporations that have loans. It's affecting banks that have bonds. It's affecting everybody. And so as this starts to create ripples through the economy, you'll see the effects of that occurring, which could be unemployment, could be other things like that. But yeah, the same problem that it's creating for the multifamily operators by increasing the loans, it's also creating for all business owners that have loans out, that have corporate bonds. All that stuff is getting kind of mixed up and screwed up right now.
Yeah. All right. Sound like we need to have a continuation of this recording. So
sounds good.
Maybe we'll have you come back and talk about how you acquire 5-10 unit.
I'd love to, V. I'd love to. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Okay.
Last question, Chris. How does the audience get in touch with you?
Shoot me an email. That's usually the quickest way to get a hold of me. It's quick, Quick, 771 @gmail.com. Nothing fancy. Quick 771 @gmail.com. And I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today. I do have a favor to ask. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with more amazing stories and insights from REBallers. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.